The whole crew of the USS Reseda are reformed Maquis. Ensign Ollie wears a laurel, not a leaf hat. And Boimler loves chili rellenos, but who doesn't? Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 6 of Gods and Angles. That's funny. Written by Keyshawn C. Garraway. Directed by Brandon Williams, our pal. How you doing today, Sirach?
I'm good. I thought it said angel. It's an angles. Okay.
I know, isn't that great? At least I think they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because angles, they kept talking about angles like, oh, that guy's got, look at those ugly angles. You know, that, okay.
Yeah.
I can just start right now by saying the funniest part of this episode for me was just how they were trying to be like derogatory about like corners and angles and spheres. And I'm like, ooh, look at all those angles and straight lines. And look at, oh, that was hysterical.
There's too many edges on the ship.
Yeah. But they didn't like the number 10 because the 0 and the 10 was too round.
Yeah, I saw that. That was funny.
But you know, it's an old trope that they use a lot in Star Trek, which is two warring factions and our heroes have to be the mediator, basically. It's in a lot of episodes of Star Trek. It was even in the Orville. You know, it's a sci-fi trope.
Yes. It's a Star Trek thing for sure. Before we got too into the episode, I wanted a highlight the writer of this episode, whose name sounded like a black guy, and I had to look him up. Keyshawn Garraway.
As soon as you saw Keyshawn, you and me both thought it was like, come on.
I was like, he's got to be a brother. Got to be a brother that wrote this. So yeah, I looked up Keyshawn, and he is a brother, and so kudos to him for writing this episode.
Mm-hmm. Very good stuff. I wondered, if you're looking him up, has he written other episodes?
Let me see. It says he's the writer-producer from Kansas City, Kansas. And we're going to get into some of the other stuff.
Yeah, he's written, story editor. Okay, but that means he's in the writer's room. Okay.
Yeah.
So for all of season 5
episodes?
Basically. Right. Yeah, it's for all of season 5, basically. He's in the writer's room. Oh man, what a bummer. So he joined in the 5th season, and now they're done. What'd you do, Keyshawn?
He got a job, is what he did. He got a job at the wrong time, is what he did.
Yeah.
That's just a timing thing, but at least, he got the credits. He got a chance to add that to his IMDb.
Yeah.
Nominated for 2 Primetime Emmys. Oh no, that's the show itself. I'm happy for him. I saw his name in the beginning, and I was like, because we know Brandon Williams. Obviously, we've had Brandon on a few times on the show. He's the one that directed this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was the first time I'd seen Keyshawn, and I was like, hey, this got to be somebody.
Yeah.
Keyshawn C. Garraway.
He went to Loyola Marymount, too.
I see that.
Local.
I see that.
So we had a lot of new things. We had these spheres. I think they were called orbs and cubes, right? So we have orbs and cubes. We also had Ensign Ollie. And I was like, wait, what? Are we adding another lower decker? Because they weren't just like bringing her in, as like some goofy whatever thing. Like they were giving her a full story. Like she was the main character of this episode, kind of like T'Lyn.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we're going to see her again.
Not only do I wonder if we're going to see her again, but the thing that came to my mind was this episode feels like it was written before they knew that this was kind of the end of the show. Because you don't usually, if you're on your last season, you've already got your characters that you've developed, you kind of would start closing out their storylines and, giving them more to do, or, wrapping up their storylines, or just focusing on the main cast that you've already got. But to bring in a guest star who's essentially the main feature of this episode opposite Mariner, that made me think perhaps this episode was written before they knew that the plug was getting pulled on them.
Totally, because they're like opening a new door.
Right.
On the fifth to last episode. And you would think at that point, they'd be closing the doors. There wouldn't be like creating a new character, giving a new story, opening up a new arc. That's a short arc, So yeah, I agree. I don't think they knew. I don't think they knew at all for this entire episode. They thought it was a possibility, but you got to keep writing as if it's going to keep going. And she was a very interesting character because it sounds like she's the granddaughter of Zeus that we met in Who Mourns for Adonais. Remember this guy with Walter? Here he is. Here he is. Let's pull up.
Yeah, from the original series, right? This is I remember this. Yes, I remember this episode.
So she is his granddaughter, it seems.
Oh, maybe from this very moment here that you're watching, that's the beginning of the. That could be the her grandmother too, right there.
Yeah.
For all we know, right? Very good callback also from this show. They just always intertwine past Star Trek canon into this show, and they're very casual about it. It's not overly emphasized, but it is something that is weaved into the tapestry of their storytelling. And I think it's great because it just gives you a little bit of follow-up story. It gives you, it gives you something to go back and say, oh, let me watch that other episode, that Who Mourns for Adonais episode. So I do like the fact that they do that.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, I misspoke. I think you're correct. That moment there, because that character was Apollo, right? And he was Zeus's son, and he's talking to that lady there. So that Ensign Ollie is probably their child.
Their child, right?
It's very interesting. Very good callback. Very good stuff there. Good job, Lower Decks. You made us all think, because then that's the first thing I thought when she's like, "Oh, I'm the granddaughter of Zeus," and I'm like, Zeus. And I was like, wait a minute, there was an episode, and then he had the thing, and there was like Zeus was mentioned. There was Apollo.
There was a harp in that episode, right?
There was Artemis was mentioned, but I didn't remember what was going on. But yeah, that was Apollo, right? And then he was the son of Zeus, and so that's what it is. She's their kid.
Yeah,
that's pretty badass. Good job, Lower Decks. And then, of course, she says it's not a leaf hat; it's a laurel. What do you think of that new character, by the way?
I like the character. I was okay with her. Thought it was played well. It gave an opportunity to show somebody who F's up more than Mariner.
Yeah. Right.
Well, because now Mariner's starting to get big sister. Yeah.
She's starting to get a little reformed right now. And so they kind of needed somebody to be that person. Because if Mariner went back to that, there would need to be something that would cause her to be like that. But if she is continuing her arc in this way, now this person's the fuck up, as you say. Which is good, because it gives us a chance to see both this new character and also Mariner's growth, right? Mariner was essentially in this episode the counterpart, are, when you look up them, the two of them juxtaposed against each other. For example, Mariner speaking to her mom, Captain Freeman, about being allowed to investigate this case or whatnot, and saying, no, we're not going to mess it up, don't worry, you can trust me, and whatnot. And so we've seen that Mariner is getting to a point where she feels like
she's earned the trust of her mom. She feels like, hey, I've matured. I'm no longer the kind of person who's going to mess things up. You could put faith in me, and you see her being, a big sister type of character in this episode, where she's able to relate to this Ali character because Mariner was a lot like her in the beginning of this show. Just not being able to get anything right. But as the course of this show has gone on, we have seen Mariner's maturity. We've seen her go through the identity crisis about whether she wanted to be there, and what her roles are, and not wanting to be promoted, and having to go through all of those emotional kind of maturation to get to the point that she's at right now. I think that's good for a character.
Absolutely. And we also had the other guys. The also-rans kind of had their thing. There was like a third storyline in a way, or a second one, which was Boimler trying to be Ta'ana's friend and to be called Flip. But instead she called him Fucko. Was it Fucko?
yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
What I loved about Ta'ana was when she attacked him and she like beat the hell out of him, and then she like wiggled. She wiggled her butt.
Yeah,
like she wiggled.
She went into the
like
cat stand. Yeah, she went into the cat stands. Yeah, arched her back, lifted her butt up in the air, and then started wiggling, and then pounced on him. It was hilarious to me. I thought that's they did the cat motions because that's what a cat does, and it's like when it's going through its own kind of routine. So I thought that was funny to me. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, not to jump too far into that, but I also wanted to finish up on Ensign Ollie is from the Reseda, which is great. Anybody that lives in LA knows about Reseda. Anybody that's watched The Karate Kid knows that took place in Reseda, and same thing with Cobra Kai, although it wasn't really filmed in Reseda, but it's supposed to take place there. And same thing with the Tom Petty song, Free Fallin'. I've always had a pet peeve about that song. Because
how does that song take place in Reseda?
He says, living in Reseda. He just says live. And then he says, there's a freeway running through the yard. And that line always pissed me off. Because I'm like, there is no freeway that goes through Reseda. It is like you got to go south to Encino to get to the 101, or you got to go east to Van Nuys to hit the 405, or you got to go way west to get to the 27 in Topanga Canyon, or you got to go way north to Northridge to get to, or Porter Ranch to get to the 118. There is none of there are 4 freeways, but none of them touch Reseda. And that is my nitpick of the day. That song is always bugged me. It's a great song, but I'm like, did Reseda used to be bigger when that song did it used to stretch out to the 405 back in the day? I don't know. Anyway.
Well, technically he could be talking about Reseda Boulevard, which 101 does run across.
Yeah,
but
so does the 118. That's true. That's 2 freeways.
Yeah, technically, I don't know, but if he says in Reseda, I don't know. Yeah. That's the same as on Reseda, right?
Anyway, so it's the USS Reseda, and Reseda's kind of ghetto. It's kind of just like it's just like a whatever little, like a small little district north of Encino. But anyway, it's cute. It's funny. We love that kind of stuff. And we also had a bunch of NAMs, but we'll get into that. Let's take a quick break. Let's get off of Reseda Boulevard.
All right.
And take a quick break, and we'll come right back on the 7th Rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule with Sirach, the Game Changer Lofton.
Hello.
Here are the trivioids of the week, everybody. It's all business this week. And they go something like this. The Cerritos is holding talks between the Orbs and the Cubes. The whole crew of the USS Reseda are reformed Maquis. That was fun. Boimler loves chili rellenos, but who doesn't? Mariner and Ollie have to babysit a teenage cube. Ew, that was gross when they found out that they were playing with this soilage. Cubes don't like that tens have a round 0. Dr. Ta'ana has a rainbow of blood samples. And Ensign Ollie wears a laurel, not a leaf hat. All right. There are also some non-appearance mentions. We had a Dixon Hill mention from Mariner.
Yeah, I saw that.
You caught that?
I saw that. Yeah, and she's like, you don't have to be Dixon Hill to figure this one out, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there was a Kirk mention, and a Zeus mention, and Q was also mentioned. But did they mention Apollo?
They didn't mention Apollo.
I mean, yeah, I don't remember if she's talked about her dad or her mom, or if she just said Zeus, my grandpa.
They just mentioned Zeus.
Yeah,
okay. What I remember. I do remember too. Q. Yeah. I do remember the Maquis, also another mention.
But do you remember Gleaming the Cube?
Right.
Gleaming the Cube was some old skateboard movie. It just popped in my head when you said Q. What I loved was not just the funny jokes about edges and corners and rounded things, but their names. Their names were like Quadrillon and Rondus. I was like,
what kind of names are them?
Or when they said that he's like, oh no, I'm not bright or something like that.
Yeah, Mariner, don't look at me, I'm not glowing.
Yeah, and Mariner being hilarious, she's like, no, you look great. Somebody's not skipping Radius Day. That's a circle joke. That's a sphere joke. Anyway,
it's a sphere joke. And then I think she also said, "Is that like seeing you naked or something?" That she said something like that. Yeah, very good jokes like that. Those kind of jokes were great. I also like the whole alternate universe pad that Boimler was carrying, and the whole. I noticed how thick it was. It has a wider bevel. And he's like, yeah, it's red.
He's like, it's red, you guys, and you're noticing the thickness.
They're looking at the wrong thing. Like, so I thought that was funny as well.
Mm-hmm.
Had me laughing.
These guys were photonic.
Oh, Ferengi too. We also got Ferengi blood. So the Ferengi were another kind of NAM in this episode.
Right. That was the fun blood rainbow.
Yeah.
That was cute. So, and also what cracked me up was when it was one of the guys, one of the shapes was like, oh, shape war. Like shape war.
I thought Mariner, her line, she says, so you iced the cube? I was like,
I missed that. That is funny.
Yeah, she said that. She was talking to Ollie. And she was like, so, she found the notepad or whatever in her locker. And then she accused her of icing the cube. I thought that was hilarious.
Better than Gleaming the Cube.
It's better than Gleaming the Cube. So is that a NAM for Ice Cube?
Yeah, but he's never been on Star Trek yet.
I know. I'm messed up.
What if he's in Starfleet Academy one of these days? Like he's like, or what if they? No, I'm trying to think of like
we be clubbing.
Well, because by then, what's his three-man game called?
The Big Three.
The Big Three. By then, the Big Three will be like 800 years old. So maybe it's like the biggest thing in the universe at that point,
Yeah, right.
And they owe everything that they have to Ice Cube.
Yeah, well, this would have been an episode for him to guest star in. This would have been it. The Kazon, that's the Kazon character that walks around and he always talks in riddles.
Oh, Kayshawn. Kayshawn. That's confusing. Kayshawn is his name, and he's a Tamarian.
Kayshawn is his name. Is it Tamarian?
Yeah, a Kazon is a Voyager alien, and a Cation is the cat alien that Ta'ana is. There's so many things.
And he a Cation, and his name is Kayshawn.
Yeah,
but he's a Tamarian.
Yes,
and they talk in those riddles, right?
Yes.
They talk in those like. Yeah, I just think whenever he says something, it's so funny and stupid. I think in one line he said, Rajik when he fell in the castle.
Yeah.
And it's like, when he, like, it's like, if you don't know, you don't know, it's like,
One
I
of
think a
his
whole explanation on just his lines, just the backstory on his lines would be funny. Just a whole flashback on his lines.
I wonder if there
Ex-
is one.
Rajik when he fell in the castle, like, what are you doing? Like,
Okay, so it says Lieutenant Junior Grade Kayshawn is a male Temerian who lived during the late 24th century. He was the first member of his species to serve in Starfleet. Yeah, played by Carl Tart.
okay.
I want to see all of his fun quotes, but I don't think.
I don't think they have them listed right now,
No.
but yeah. Also, when that orb was in the interrogation room, and Mariner comes out with like some bribes or something to try to get the story out of her, like, sweet potential energy. It's like it was just stupid. But it was like giving a cigarette to somebody you're interrogating, instead they give them some kind of potential energy.
But yeah, like we were saying earlier in this review, there's the ending there with Mariner being sweet to her, being nice, saying, "Hey, I'm going to keep you company," which really felt like they were just more than just leaving the door open for having the appearance, a second appearance by Antonelli. It almost felt like we're going to basically assume that we're going to see Antonelli again in season 6.
Yeah, and Mariner doesn't really have a bestie in this episode, right? I guess Boimler, not really, but she doesn't have a bestie.
Right,
and
that's Ollie in this one.
Yeah, so maybe that was their intention if they were going to continue going forward. Like, hey, let's get Mariner a sidekick who is more incompetent and inept, or who is more like she was in the first couple of seasons. So I like that. And then she has some great lines. The thing about Tawny is when she delivers her lines, she's just so good at it. But the setup for this one was she busts into the door and she says, "Hey, we deserve a chance to change the sheets." And somebody's like, "Oh,
yeah."
It's like bad metaphor or something like that.
Yeah. She was like, it's a figure of speech. He's like, yeah,
Yes.
that's a gross one. Or well, that was Billups, I think, right?
Yes, changing the sheets.
Yeah. I also loved there were just so many subtle, funny lines, like when they said orbs, orbulate. What is that even?
Yes.
Everything was just very orby or squarey or cubey, or not cubey. And Shax.
QB or not QB?
That's the one. When Shax said, "Tractors are for tractoring." I don't know. These are the things that I'm going to miss about Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Is how clever they are with the one-liners, or with the throwaway lines, or with the made-up terms, or with the California class ships that all have silly California names. Because Reseda is not even a city; it's just a district in LA. These are adorable.
Yeah,
and so
they picked the least popular and well-known places in LA to make a ship out of it, like the El Segundo. Like, okay,
El Segundo is so gross, but that's where the Lakers used to practice back in the day, right?
Yeah. But it's just like, just these places, that are not the most popular. When you think of California, you don't think of Tarzana, or Reseda, Cerritos.
The USS North Hollywood.
Yeah, but I like it though, because these, it just adds to the humor. The line I liked is when they said they're forming into a different a shape. And then he says, "A bigger orb and a bigger cube. They're not creative at all."
Those dorks. They should have become like Voltron. They could turn into Voltron. But instead they just turned into a bigger orb and a bigger cube.
They're not creative at all. That's the line. Like, what did you expect? Their cubes and orbs. What other shape would they, if they were to get together? What would they?
And then we got Squat
I thought that
Aaron.
was so funny.
I was trying to figure out
Yeah.
the baby that was kind of like a square circle thing. I was trying to figure out what the name Squat Aaron meant. You know, because squa, it's like square, but then Aaron.
Yeah. It should be Squircle.
Yeah. Squircle.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Or?
Yeah, no. Or sfoob, you know, like a sphere and a cube or something like that. But Squat Aaron anyway.
Yeah. Square Aaron was I couldn't put that one together.
And then
it made me think, what, first of all, I thought, does that shape actually have a name? Where it was kind of square at the top and rounded on the bottom. I don't think that there's an actual name. You could have called him lug nut, because that's what a lug nut looks like.
Or it was funny when the mom goes like, "Do not feed him juice." That was cute.
Yeah. Then he drops a load.
Oh yeah, that was hideous when they were like taking sperm samples of the square. Remember? I mean, basically, that's what we're talking about when they said they took a sample, and he's like, "Yes, we like to leave our messes behind," or something like that.
Oh yeah.
He's like, "Ew, I collected that."
Yes. Ta'ana going, removing the lightning bolt from Boimler's ass was another funny point in this episode.
Yeah, it ended up being like almost like a ceramic lightning bolt or something like that. Like it was like kind of broken, and the first time it was like a squeaky chew toy when she first did it, but then this time it was ceramic.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. She's like, they're gonna probably name this procedure after me. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's not what you want to go in the history books for, Boimler.
Lightning butt. But then we also, if you'll recall, we were recently at Trek to Dallas, Creation Entertainment's Trek to Dallas, and there was a guy walking around cosplaying Towel Guy. Remember there was the guy walking around and he had the no shirt and the towel? And we happened to get another sighting of Towel Guy right on cue. When there was like the battle, he was like lying on the floor in his towel. I was like, "Hey, Towel Guy, we just saw your cosplay. Welcome back."
Yeah, that was Towel Guy. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually the first person I've seen cosplay as Towel Guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty creative for him too. Yeah.
Yeah. And we also had our first officer's log. I think that's the first time we may have heard a first officer's log, which was
with Rancid.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff in here. There were a lot of firsts. There was that first. That was introducing this character. That was introducing these aliens. There was I thought there was another one, but there were a lot of like first.
There was the other first that I thought of, and maybe this was the first, maybe in this episode, because now that I think about it, there was a kind of a hint of this, but photonic beings in general. How many times have we seen photonic beings? Right? I mean,
the only thing I can think of
in the Next Generation, right? That light that kind of went up Troy's dress when she was sleeping.
Could be, yeah. I mean, that was photonic, I guess. The other thing I was thinking is just like holodeck people, because that's made out of photons, you know.
Right.
But that's not really beings. But yeah.
Also, like the Doctor in Voyager.
Yeah, he's a hologram, so yeah, he'd be photonic. But yeah, what was that episode called? It was called, let us know in the live chat or in the comments below. What is that episode called? I think it was first season, maybe early second season. Where that light being, while Troy's sleeping, it just kind of goes, "Ooh, I want to go." Oh, and it impregnated her. And so it was called The Child.
Yes.
I think it was called The Child, right?
Yes, yes. And then that's when Riker was like, "She's pregnant. I don't want anything."
Yeah, he was the least supportive guy ever. Anyway, I think we got to run here.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that we're going to miss about Lower Decks, because when we're reviewing Lower Decks, all we're doing is just saying, this was hilarious, this was funny, this was smart, this was cool. And I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss watching a show that is constantly raising the bar and raising my eyebrows and constantly impressing me with how intelligent and how funny it is. It's been a good ride.
Yeah. It takes you on an adventure. I kind of wish I didn't know that this show was ending, because every time I watch it, I think of how the story would be if it wasn't ending,
Yeah.
or you know what I mean? Or are they getting to a climactic finale? Are we going in a direction of a big finale? And I just don't like having that weight, kind of, bearing some pressure on when I watch the episode. I know these are the last moments where I get to savor these characters, and so some part of me is like, why are they introducing a new character? I want to see more Ransom and Tahana and and Freeman,
Right.
and right, and like I want more of the people they already have given me, and and I'm also kind of like, I don't know why, but I've been cheering in the back of my head for Tendi and Rutherford to be a couple,
Totally.
and I didn't get it enough. I don't
What
feel
if
like
they were going to
I've
show
gotten
it
it.
to us in season 6 and now we're never going to see it?
Yeah, but don't you feel like their chemistry, the way the show has been, that they would end
Yep.
up kind of being a couple?
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
It's a certainty. Yeah. But
yeah,
I hope we don't miss it, because there's only 4 episodes left. And
yeah. I know there's only 4 episodes left, and it's like, where else are we going to go with that? They took Tendi to the whole Orion world, and she could have found another love interest there, or something that would have kind of
you know,
diverted that path. But she comes back and is still Tendi. So I'm thinking,
she's
you know,
Rutherford's Tenderoni, you know?
that's what I feel, and that's one of the things I'm missing out on too. I feel like, give me some of that. I know we've got 4 episodes left. Perhaps they'll give us at some point, the whole them getting together moment. But I feel like it's like the Kira Odo situation, where at some point you're like, "Come on, guys, just get it over with,
Yeah,
and
just do it.
just do it."
Grow up. Being such a
Exactly,
wimp.
exactly.
Hey, before we go, a couple final things. There were 3 toys in the background, I think behind in Rutherford and Boimler's room. It was it looked like it was Green Shirt Kirk, Wrath of Khan Spock, and it looked like Deep Space Nine O'Brien with a phaser rifle. So like him on like the planet with his phaser rifle. That was pretty cool. Um,
Wow.
and the other thing was, oh, Boimler mentioned Ronald D. Moore. Did you hear that? He says, we
I
got a
did hear that.
he said, we got a real Ronald D. Moore over here. I was like, whoa, nice shout out.
Yes, I forgot to write that in my notes. That's crazy, because I
Yeah,
heard it,
that was pretty
and I
badass.
and I thought to myself, when have they ever given the writers a shout out? It
Never.
must be the first time
Because
that
he's
we've heard
not
a
in canon.
writer's name.
He's not a
Yeah,
character.
he's not a character. The writer.
Yeah.
That's like them mentioning Ira Bear, or any one of the writers. We've never heard a DC Fontana. I can't remember Brandon Braga or
Oh,
anyone.
you know what would be
Have they?
cool?
Yeah,
Is if one of the ships is a USS Fontana, because there is a Fontana City in California, and it would be a really nice shout out to DC Fontana.
that's two birds with one
Yeah,
ship.
with one stoner, yeah. Anyway, okay. Also, speaking of stoners, here are
Yeah.
people we'd like to thank. Their names are Homer Frizzell,
Homer.
Dr. Anne Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Moeller, Dr. Muhammad Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Goo, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Edward Foltz, Faith Howell, My Life from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manosfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, Chris Sternett, Peter Draymore, Chris Garris, Jason Oken, and of course, Greg K. Wickstrom. That's it for us, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a lot of fun. We've got 4 more of these to cover until they announce, just kidding, we're doing season 6. How cool would that be if they're just trolling us? And then on April Fool's Day, they go, just kidding, new season.
Yes, that would be great. Because I can't really get enough of this show. I think it can go on, and I could just keep soaking up these episodes. It's not where it's that serious where you have to like sit down and really lock in and, know the science of things and try to solve the riddle with everyone. This allows you to just watch it freely without really just going on the adventure without having to do your own problem solving or mystery, solving mysteries or stuff. It's pretty standard. Like when I was watching this episode, for example, I instinctively knew that the orbs that were missing had hooked up with each other. It was just like, oh, they're gonna.
That's what I thought. I thought it was gonna, but I thought it was gonna be more of a Romeo and Juliet thing. I thought they're gonna be like, we want to be together, and they're gonna be like, no, but it just was kind of more like the punchline thing. But yeah, they're setting that up, and it's just they delivered it well. We're happy with it.
Exactly. No mystery there. It's just suspend, your belief and just go for the ride and have fun.
Right. All right, everybody. That's it for us. We're looking forward to more. Please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review, and visit us on patreon.com/the7th-rule to support us and become part of this rad team and community. You'll be glad you did.
Yeah.
We'll be glad you did.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks very much. For Strock Lofton, myself, Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, we'll see you next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.